Welcome to AssistEdge RPA sign-in process webinar. We are going to learn about sign-in process in AssistEdge RPA Automation Studio. So let's get started with the topic. A sign-in process, also known as a log-in process, is used to access an application upon authentication. In a typical scenario, a username and password is required to sign in to an application. You can use a sign-in process to automate the repetitive task of signing to an application. Prerequisite to use sign-in process is that in Automation Studio, you need to configure the application which you want to automate for sign-in. These are the steps to create sign-in process. First one is in the toolbar, create and then click sign-in process. The flowchart designer will open. Second step is in the studio menu from the canvas tools pane, drag application activity and drop onto the flowchart designer. Third step is in the application type list, select the type of application you want to sign into. Fourth step is in the select an application list, select the configured application. Alternatively, you can add a new application at this level. Fifth step is click the settings icon to open the multimodal interface. The application opens and the respective multimodal interface appears. Sixth step would be configuring the fields and actions required for signing into the application. In the same way, you capture any other automation action. Seventh step would be click save as to save the process. Once the sign-in process is created and saved, now you can view the saved processes in home page. Finally, you can publish and deploy the process. Moving on, when we create a sign-in process, the login ID and password attributes gets automatically created for a sign-in process. So, I have opened Automation Studio. Before carrying on with actual automation, let me just showcase you what is the manual process. Let us take an example of configuring a web application that requires signing in. For that, I am opening Internet Explorer and we will redirect on EdgeVerve website. In automation, we will be using sign-in process for login, and then after successful logging into the application, we will carry on further with the next automation. For now, manually I am providing email ID and password. I am providing email ID. And I am providing password now. Let me click over login button. This is the landing page of EdgeVerve website. Our task is to utilize sign-in process and sign in into this application. Then we will extract the EdgeVerve invoice orders list. Let us go on the Automation Studio now for the demonstration. I have opened Automation Studio. And in order to create sign-in process, first task would be to click on create and then click on sign-in process. I will type application under process component application. I will drag and drop it over the canvas. Since I wanted to do the web automation, that is why I will choose application, and in that we are going to implement web automation. So the type of application would be web apps. Let us choose that. We need to select an application. In order to create it, we can either click over add new application and you can provide the details in here. Else you can go on the admin tab and you can provide the details in order to add a new application. Since I wanted to showcase you how we will be able to mark a process as a sign-in process, I'll prefer going in admin tab and adding an application from there. Over admin tab, I'll click over add application. The application type which I wanted to add is web application. We need to provide the application name. So this is the application name. I'm going to click over add. EdgeVerve application has been added successfully. Let me close this box and let us refresh this. Now let us open the application. Under web applications, we will be able to check that web application is added. So right now there are no application properties available, so we need to configure these application properties. First task would be to provide the login URL. So I'm going to open web browser and I'm going to provide the login URL. I'll paste it here. Then we need to have search URL. The difference between login URL and search URL would be login URL is the web page on which you are supposed to provide the credentials, and the search URL will be the URL of a web page on which you will be landing. So we need to provide the landing web page name as well. I'll open web browser again. Let me provide the credentials again, as I need to copy search URL. I'll click over login button. I'm going to merely copy this URL. Let us open the Automation Studio and provide the search URL. Then I'm going to scroll down. This is the application description. You need to provide the application description in the display. So this is EdgeVerve Site Automation. Which we are doing. Display name would be EdgeVerve Site. Under General, application name will be indicating name of the application entered at the time of adding the application. It auto-populates as per the name of the application entered while configuring the application. Then we are having application type. So the type of application selected at the time of adding the application will be by default taken. It auto-populates as per the application type selected while configuring the application. So since we are doing web automation, Studio Web is chosen by default. Then under miscellaneous, we are having two options available. First one is application tracked. It is applicable only for AssistEdge Engage. And then we are having is multi-instance allowed. By default it is ticked. It has been decommissioned now. It was applicable only for AssistEdge SE, that is until version 8.6, that is AssistEdge Engage now. Then next is miscellaneous Java. We are having environment type available. It determines the type of application configured. By default it has been chosen as Windows class based. It is event dependent, which implies web component respond based on the actions of the user or the system. So by default window class based is set. Next one is navigation URLs. It basically enables navigation of a process flow from the current URL to the specified URL in this field. You must use navigate to activity inside the application activity to use this URL for navigation. Let us move ahead. We need to choose the preferences as well. Whether is launched minimized. It signifies if the application window is minimized. And along with that, we can choose the preferred browser. So I wanted to go with Internet Explorer. Next application property is reset required. It signifies if the application reset needs to be done after each automation is executed. If it is not selected, then the application does not reset. Next one is sequential reset. It signifies if the application reset needs to be done one after another in no order. If it is selected, it is mandatory to have a reset process for the application created and used inside the application. And finally, the point in which we are quite interested is sequential sign-in. Signifies if the signing into the application is required by the automation process in a sequence in which the application is used in the process. If it is selected, it is mandatory to have a sign-in process to the application created and used inside the application. So I have clicked on each sequential sign-in, and this is it which we wanted to achieve. I'm going to save this implementation. Data has been saved successfully. Let us move ahead. I will click on the canvas. On the canvas, we need to choose application type, that would be web apps, and we need to select an application. EdgeVerve site is the newly configured application. We need to click on settings, and this time we are going to provide the credentials, that is username and password. For that, I'm going to instantiate multimodal interface to achieve this implementation. At lower right hand corner, you can check that web mode has been instantiated. So I wanted to set the email ID. For that, I'm hovering over email ID. Let us click the play button of the web mode to capture the user ID or email ID field of the login page. I will hover over email ID text box. Click the field when it gets highlighted with red box. The properties panel of the web mode appears. In the action list, you can set the attribute. At right hand corner, we need to provide action for sign-in properties. In the input source list, select login ID. So I have chosen action as set value, and we need to provide the input source. It can be either login ID or password. Select login ID. By default, the login ID attributes gets created for a sign-in process. In the display name field, let us enter a desired name of the user ID field captured. So let us scroll down and provide the display name. I'm setting login ID. Let us click on the Run Now button to check whether it is working fine. So it has provided the desired input source. I'm going to save this. It has provided the login ID at this location. It means web mode has set the email ID at precise location. I have saved this. Let us move on. Let's click the play button of the web mode to capture the password field of login page, and I'm going to hover over the password field. So let us choose set value. At right hand corner, sign in properties are available. So let us choose set value as an action, and input source would be password field. We need to provide the display name. So this is set value of password field. We are setting password, and I'm going to click over Run Now button to check it's working, and it is working perfectly fine. Let us save this configuration. Finally, we need to click over login button. For that, I'm going to click on play button once again, and let us hover the mouse over login button now. I have released the control, and I need to perform click action this time. So I'm clicking over the login button. That would be the display name. I'm going to save this. Let us go back to the Automation Studio and carry on with the further implementation now. I'll click over Save Configured Fields and return to Studio. I'm going to double click on the application, and you can check the automation properties. We set the value for email ID, we set value for password, and we clicked on the login button. When I scroll down, you can check the sign-in validation. So this is the sign-in validation occurred automatically based on the values which we entered. Let us save this. As soon as we save the process, you can check that process has taken the name automatically. So the process name is EdgeVerve site, and it has appended a text named as sign in. So this is our process, EdgeVerve site _ sign in process. So I have saved the process, that is EdgeVerve site sign in process. We need to first publish this process. This is the final process of EdgeVerve. I'm going to publish this. So process has been published successfully. As I told you earlier, in order to utilize the sign-in process, you need to make sure that your sign-in process is in deployed state. For that, let us go on the admin tab, and under deployment tab, I'm going to publish this process. Let us click over the deploy button, and this is the version 1 which I'm selecting, and this is the final process which I wanted to confirm. So the process has been deployed successfully. Let us go ahead and do the next implementation. Now, in order to check the order list from the EdgeVerve website, let us create a process. I'll go ahead and create a process. First task would be to click on create process and click on application. So in the canvas tools, I'm dragging and dropping an application. We are going to implement web automation. So the type of application would be web apps. So we need to select an application. We will select our sign in application, that is EdgeVerve site_sign in. So I have chosen our newly created application named as EdgeVerve site. This is our sign in process. Now we need to click over the settings. It will instantiate multimodal interface. This time we need to go ahead and provide the credentials manually, since we already have automated this, and when we will give it a run, then automatically we will be able to log in into the system. For now, I just wanted to click over invoices tab on the landing page. For that, let us provide the credentials manually. Let us click the play button of the web mode to click on the invoices tab. This is the tab on which I need to click. I'll click over play button and I'll hover over invoices tab. At right hand corner, we need to configure the properties. So we need to perform an action named as click, and I'll be providing display name here. I will click over run now button and check whether my implementation is working fine. It is working perfectly fine. It has clicked over invoices. I'm going to save this implementation and let us go back on the Automation Studio now. So we have completed our implementation. Now in the Studio menu, let us set up the environment and then perform the test run. For that, I'm going to click over test run and set up the environment. As soon as we set up the environment, it is asking for the credentials. So process is providing username and password automatically. And we are on the landing page and the environment setup is completed. Now let us go ahead and test run. I'm going to click on test run. And the process has clicked over invoices tab. The process is completed in fraction of seconds. So you can check that our automation has been completed successfully. With this, we have completed our demonstration of sign-in process. In this webinar, we have learned about sign-in process and its implementation in AssistEdge RPA Automation Studio. Thank you.